Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip Trickle Flow Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip Trickle Flow Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. All right, we are so excited to have Cheryl Hirss with us today. She's the owner of Sagewater Financial in Washington State. They offer wealth management services to individuals and families as accredited investment fiduciaries, helping people design and manage their financial plans to help achieve a desired goal or lifestyle. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Cheryl. I'm excited to have you on.
Oh, thanks.
We have people with all sorts of backgrounds on that listen to the podcast. Can you start off by just telling people what a financial advisor is?
Yeah, a financial advisor is someone who works with people to help reach their financial goals. Ultimately, I mean, there's so many different kinds of us, different flavors we come in, different philosophies we come at it with, but essentially it's someone who's going to give financial guidance so that people who don't want to be doing this themselves can achieve whatever their set goals are.
So what type of person, what stage of life, that sort of thing is going to be seeking out a financial advisor?
I think someone who's seeking out advisor is different stages of life, different goals, but basically people who don't have the knowledge to get what they want done, don't have the time to try to acquire the knowledge to get what they want done. They don't want the responsibility of making those decisions for themselves or their families or their business or whatever it is that's weighting them down on their shoulders. If they don't want to be holding that pressure of making sure they're doing the right thing for this larger goal, someone who wants to offload that responsibility, somebody who values professional advice. And more so than just here's an investment, here's what you do, but somebody who values what comes with someone like a financial advisor who probably has some or should have some very good basis in things other than financial advice and wealth management, things like estate taxes and tax planning and estate management. So people looking at a broader scope of just other than here's your money and here's your investments. Like, what do those mean and how is that structured? And does that actually work for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had people on and we've talked about building the team. We've had a mortgage lender on in the past. We had a banker on. We had a real estate agent on, although we were talking more about specifically for investing. But how do you fit into that team?
Yeah, great question. I think when it comes to financial advisors and financial advice and financial guidance, typically you're talking about working with people with money or people who want to figure out how to make more money or have more money later. And so I think at least in my opinion, one of the true real interpretations of wealth, again, isn't just one vehicle. It's not just having a 401k or an IRA or whatever it is. I think there's different pillars. You've got your real estate pillar, you've got your entrepreneurship, you've got your investments, and you've got all different, your eggs spread in different baskets, to be super generic about it. But so when it comes to a team, I think you need people that know what they're doing in each of those spaces. And if you specialize in one, great, but bring in the professional to do their best work for those other pillars. So I definitely, absolutely believe in a team approach and having your irons in different fires when it comes to wealth building. That's smart. I love the team idea. And we have all sorts of different listeners for our podcast, but many folks are just at the early stages of building their team. And oftentimes they're coming at it a little later in life as well. Like they're not in their 20s or 30s and maybe are thinking, oh no, is it too late for me to do this? So I'm curious what that looks like for you in your firm when you have somebody walk through the door who's maybe a little reticent and just a little worried. Uh-oh, is this person going to judge me? I made it to my 40s and don't have a good plan. So what do you do with those types of folks who come in? Oh, that's a good question. Whether someone's starting late or not, people come in and always think they aren't where they should be. They think they don't know as much as they should. And what we do isn't necessarily rocket science. So that's really an undersell. But What I mean is, if you just can stay disciplined. So another reason I think to have an advisor is to keep you held accountable, like your accountability partner, keep you disciplined. If you're going to tell me what your goal is and I'm going to tell you how to get there, like you better do it unless you don't want to meet the goal or unless you're not as serious about it. So if someone comes in late to the game, we have the tools to say, that's fine. Here's how you can get where you need to go. And these are the best and most efficient ways of getting there. I think I handle people like that with extra care and they need the help. They're coming in and asking for it. That's a big step in the right direction. And it's a vulnerable moment for a lot of people because they feel like they should have done something they haven't actually done already. So I think what I do like about those folks is that they typically are going to take themselves pretty serious and be, if they've already made the attempt to come in, like they're ready. So we just set up a pretty strict plan and keep them adhering to it essentially. But yeah, it's not too late. It's just one of the other, I think, challenges with that is making sure the goals are realistic with folks like that. But yeah, it's not entirely uncommon. There is time if you're disciplined.
So you talked around this a little bit in what you just said. Talk about the emotion in money, right? Because a lot of people, you hear they buy at the wrong time and sell at the wrong time. And you hear all these things in the news and you say, oh my gosh, I guess I better put all my money into crypto. Oh no, I guess I shouldn't have put any of my money into crypto. Or when there's just so much emotion around money,
Yeah.
how does that factor into what you're doing?
If I was to write a list and go back to your initial question, is I should have said it. Someone comes to me so that they have someone who takes the emotion out of their investing. It's huge. Behavioral finance is fascinating to me and how people feel about their money. And I get it from all angles. The same day, a piece of news can come out and I will have 10 phone calls on the spectrum. Someone's very excited about the news, someone's terrified about the news, and everything in between. So it is going to behoove someone to have some sort of investment plan that takes the emotion out of money for the highest chance of success long term. Because as the research and the data shows, that fear and greed drive people's decision making around money, and it is the reason they lose out in both ways. They stick to a plan that's just not working for them because they're just too stubborn to get out, or one bad piece of news makes someone say, oh, sell everything, go to cash. But then you have to be right twice. You got to get out right, and then you got to get in right. And people being right once is really hard in our business, but being right twice is darn near impossible to do for a long time. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite behavioral finance book?
Oh, I think there's a lot of good resources on, if you've heard of Michael Kitces, he's a big guru in our industry. And so he's got a lot of good resources that touch to it. I could send you some later if you'd like.
Yeah, we'd
But
love to share that.
yeah, I can send those to you. But he's someone that's really interesting to listen to. I like listening to Professor Scott Galloway, you've probably heard of. He's pretty crude, but I like that. But he's really just to the point. He'll tell you straight up who's being rational and who's not, and just telling it like it is. And that, I think, in that manner, it is very just fact driven, which helps he's not feeling a certain way about something. It's here's what the data says, here's what that has meant historically, just from information based. So
Sometimes we probably need that tough love.
it's great stuff. Yeah, I suggest giving him a listen to as well.
Along those lines, too, when we're talking about behavioral finance, and because you are working with, I'm sure some individuals, but families, right? You have multiple people coming in. How does that work? Because not everyone's on the same page. And we've dealt with the concept on the podcast before about people having more conversations around money within a family. And that's not often happening. In fact, most of the feedback we get from listeners is saying, oh, your podcast is actually facilitating those conversations that maybe we should have had years ago. So for you, when they come into your office, how are you going about that when they're not on the same page, or I guess holding space for everyone in the room, which I'm sure is not quite easy, but is a real issue and probably real concern for folks who want to come to somebody like you who feels like my spouse, my partner, they're not going to be on the same page as me.
Yeah, that is also fascinating for me. the differences people have within relationships. So, two parts. One, I make it very clear that I am not a certified therapist, even though that is a big part of my job. Not trained, don't know what I'm doing in the therapy department, but man, you learn a lot just by listening, right? Like you just stay quiet and you listen, and a lot of nodding along and open ended questions are good. But aside from that, I actually have a piece of software that I use in my tech stack that actually quantifies it. I make people take these risk assessments, which is, I know people roll their eyes at risk assessments. I like the one that I use because it's all quantifiable. It's all numbers. It's not psychological based. And I make couples or people who are investing together take these assessments separate because I want to know how each of them feel, but I want to know what that means in numbers. I don't know, want to know what that means in warm, fuzzy feelings. So I can take that data, and then when we go to put portfolios together and make a plan, we can say, all right, do these solutions seem balanced and even based on the information we got from these assessments? Does that feel good to you guys to find a middle ground? And that's a really helpful tool to guide that conversation that's very objective and to help people find something that works for everybody when there's two very different, and there are most often two very different approaches. So yeah, it's part of the puzzle I like solving. Yeah.
It sounds complex.
Yeah.
I love the assessment that complex for you in that you have to play therapist, but not play therapist at the same time.
Yeah.
The assessment is that sounds like a great tool. And also maybe removing some of the emotion for them in the process. If they have to get it on paper and then it
Yeah.
spits out this number, then it's
Yeah.
okay. You don't have to make the number mean something. It's like, this just is. It's
Yeah.
a number.
You told me this was you, and so here's what we're doing for you. Now you're welcome to change how you feel. We can change it all up. Everything's dynamic. That's great. But as long as you're being honest with yourself and we make a plan that works for everybody, then it seems to be, it's really helpful to have that as a guide. Because then I'm not taking sides too. I'm not being like, you over here, you're actually more right than you. I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
So when people come to you, are they coming for retirement? Are they coming for creating cash flow? We talk a lot about with Drip Trickle Flow Flood. What are people coming to find you for, right? Are they saying, okay, Cheryl, I want a flood of money coming in by next year, or is it somewhere in between, something less than that?
Everybody wants a flood of money coming in next year. But most people come to me for two reasons. These are the two kind of silos in which I work. One is because they have some sort of money that they want managed to an end goal that they don't feel comfortable doing themselves. They don't have the time. They don't want the responsibility. They're not sure if it's optimized. It's just, they're at a point where they're like, okay, that one ETF I bought in 2002, we need to do something different than this because my goals are getting a little more complex. I'm getting close to retirement or getting close to a work-life balance decision where maybe I'm not having the big job anymore, but I want to do something, all those things. People also come to me to say, okay, I've acquired all this stuff. When can I retire? And that can mean different things for other people. But basically, when can I make some big life changes? If so, how will that look with what I have? And then there's people in between that say, I'm working up to this goal. If I keep doing this, will I be able to do this over here? So they're not ready to be retired. They're not ready to do this. And so our job is, I think, nearly impossible without the very helpful technologies that we use. But you can model all sorts of scenarios for people to give them the information that they need so they can make the decisions that are right for them. I don't like telling people what to do. I say, if you do these things, this will get you here. Is that what you want? If not, here, let's adjust and figure out what it is we need to do to make sure that you're comfortable.
People come to you for a variety of different reasons. And if you read, you should have X amount of money in stocks and X amount of money in bonds, and you withdraw it at this. And if you're in the FIRE movement, then you're just going to get $1 million and you're good to go. You don't have to worry about anything else ever again. Whatever the person's stage of life is, whatever their plan is, whatever their goal is, what they want to live off of, you'll help pick where to put that money and then how to withdraw it strategically?
Yes. So there's, in simple terms, there's the accumulation phase of life and the distribution phases of life. And there's different solutions that make sense when you're in either stage. It's not just a one size fits all with investing. So we help with all of that. If there's a lull in between, we talk about that. But yeah, it's very, when people, there's a real, I don't know if panic is the right word, or fear or hesitation, but when people actually switch from earning money to saying, I'm going to stop doing a thing where money comes into my house because I'm working and I need to live off of this thing that I have, it is a big deal for people, a really big deal. And it takes them time emotionally to adjust to it. So part of putting that plan together and making sure they feel confident in it is a really important part of my job, and where a lot of the trust really comes into play. Because you're telling me I can stop working. Cheryl, yes, I am telling you that. Okay, are you sure? What you're saying to me is true about how you spend money. Yes, you can. If what you're telling me is not true or accurate, then we might have problems down the road. But I'm taking what you tell me to be true. We're making very good plans around it as safety nets and bumpers on in case things go off the rails. Like we've got all that in place. So yeah, it's a big moment in people's life.
So there's all sorts of 3-letter words or 4-letter words or symbols, 401k, IRA,
Or
simple IRA, all the different things. Why would high level view one, why are people getting these things and why are there so many options?
that's another podcast. There are a lot of options because there are a lot of types. That's loaded. They need something for employers to offer to incentivize their employees, but there's lots of different types of structures of companies. It's like our country's built up of small businesses, right? So you need solutions that fit for those folks. You need solutions that help people save money for the future so that, none of this is political, but just the idea is you need these vehicles so that people down the road, we don't have a system of everyone's living off of, no one saved any money ever. So we all need to support each other and have other people take care of us. So there's a lot of different options so that most people have the ability to save for their future. So again, it's not a one size fits all, which is the IRA is your biggest one size fits all thing, but you got to be working to fund those. But the reason there's lots of those different acronyms and options is because there needs to be a setup through employers that makes sense for each business.
So the IRA, you have to be working to fund?
You have to fund an IRA with earned income. And there's some caveats to it. If you're married and your spouse, you can fund a spouse's account. If it's a spouse, there's fine print to everything. But yeah, you're not going to fund an IRA without earned income, which is why typically parents aren't funding IRAs for young children unless the young children have employment, which is a strategy. But yeah.
So what's the difference between a IRA and a Roth IRA?
An IRA is money you put into an individual retirement account that is pre-tax. So you don't pay taxes on the money going into it. It grows and grows over time. When you're retired, you pull money out of it. And at that time, it is taxed. So you owe your taxes then, not now. A Roth IRA is the opposite. You put money in the Roth now and you pay taxes on it in the year you're funding it. It grows and grows over time. And when you go to take it out in retirement, Uncle Sam has no claim to any of it because you pay taxes going in. It is tax-free growth.
So what if I want a 401k?
Then you need to have a job with a company that has a 401k for you to participate in.
So just anybody off the street can't go get a 401k.
You cannot. It is an employer-sponsored plan. And it's frankly, a 401k is a tool that a lot of employers do use to attract and incentivize good employees because people are looking for 401ks because those all come with, not all. 401k, typically employer-sponsored plans come with matching, and matching is free money from your employer. It's a good thing.
So I'm guessing this is a big part of the discussions you're having with people, employers, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and what makes sense for their business, right? Do they have a business full of young 19 and 20-year-olds who are just going to come and go and turnover's big? That might not be a great fit for, maybe that's not a 401k account. Maybe that's more of a simple or other plans that are less administratively difficult, less expensive for the employer to run because they're not trying to retain highly compensated individuals who are looking to shelter money and afford, they're not looking to max out their ultimate savings ability each year. So there's solutions that fit each company based on the nuances.
So, in addition to giving everybody else financial advice and helping them reach their goals, you're an entrepreneur. How did the heck does somebody get into being a financial advisor?
Oh man. I think there will be there's not a lot of young people getting into this business because it historically was really hard to get into this business and be successful. It was pretty cutthroat. It I got into this business right out of college. I got out pretty quickly because I didn't think a 23-year-old had any business doing this. But I stayed I stayed involved. My family was in the business. And so that is how I ultimately ended up getting back into it and buying the business and running the business. It's two different hats. The business owner hat is one full-time hat, and then doing the job of being the financial professional is a whole nother job. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for young people to get into this. And if I had time one day, I would be an advocate for helping people get into this industry and figure out how it fits right for them and their philosophy of what feels right. Because our industry comes in so many flavors of people. Like there's the good stuff and there's the bad stuff. And I would encourage people to find there is a way to do this and feel like you're really making an impact on people's lives and doing really good work. And there are those opportunities everywhere. It's just how to get young people interested and believe that's there and stick with it, right? This isn't a business where you start and then 1 year later you're going to be wildly successful. You got to shovel the dirt for a little while. Just like you do, I think, in a lot of jobs or to be successful. It's got to be, you got to put in the time.
Why do you think that there are not enough up and comers into this industry? Is there a barrier of some sort still? It seems like it's such a great career path and like lots of cool ways that you could go and audiences you could focus on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I do think the barriers are, I mean, you have to get the licenses to do our job, which I think you have to do that in medical. You have to do that in all sorts of ways. For someone who doesn't want to be pushed to a limit, that is one of the reasons they have the difficult testing requirements to get in, is to create that barrier. Who's going to try extra hard to like do this job? So there's one, it takes a little bit of effort and money. And two, it's not a get successful quick scheme. Like it's not, you're not going to, you can get into tech and get a pretty high paying job right away if you know what you're doing and you've got the training and stuff. But even after you get your degrees, even after you get your testing, you have to start trying to build a book of business. And that takes time unless someone's handing you something for free, which is not the case for most people. It's just, it takes a little bit of time to get going. And I think, and I understand why younger people would want something that's a little bit more upfront because life's expensive and life's hard. So I think it just takes a little bit of time to get going.
It sounds like it would be good for someone entrepreneurial minded though, because whether you're working for another firm or company or for yourself, it sounds like you still have to have your own book of business. So you would effectively be like an intrapreneur if you were working for somebody else. So
100%. And I think where the real opportunity lies is there's a lot of people like me and people 10 years older than me that are looking to transition out, but they want to have a junior in their office for the next 8 to 10 years so that they can create a transition plan where that book gets purchased, but you've got the person in your office. I can't tell you how many advisors I know that are looking for it. We call it a succession plan. Look for a junior to come in. And that is, I think in this business, if you just got started and you just got your wheels under you, you figured out what you were doing, and there's a lot of people willing to coach this because they're looking for that next person that they can trust. But to buy a book of business, it's hard. It's hard in that you have to put a lot of faith out there, but functionally, It's not that difficult. This isn't a business with hard assets that you're like storing and like you don't have equipment and you don't have all the things. Like you're buying just again, like an electronic book of business. And so the opportunity is there for younger people to be successful. They just need to find a place that fits well for them and commit to being somewhere for a while. That's also hard for young people is to be like, yes, this is my 10-year plan when I'm 25.
But so,
Sure. Because how do you know at that age that what you want to do for 10 years?
Uh,
but you're almost buying relationships, right? And so if you're working as a junior and you're making those connections earlier on, then then you're buying relationships that are already reinforced with you being a part of it, as opposed to if you just walk off the street and were to buy a book of business, there's no guarantee those people are going to stick around. And not that there is through the junior method either, but it seems like it's far more likely.
Yes, and there's protections for both the junior and the senior in the way that those contracts are structured, which is going down a different rabbit hole. But there's a retention clause in there that is designed to protect the person buying the book, and then also requirements for the senior to help that transition go successful. And everyone, I think if it's designed properly, it's everyone wins in that scenario. And another reason I think that way is really successful is that the person who's built their whole life creating these relationships and doing right by these people for so long, it's hard for them to hand this book off to someone that they wouldn't know well. But if you've had that person in your office and you've seen how they work day in and day out for a while, you can ensure that new person's philosophy is going to match what yours was, which yours was most likely, if it's a long relationship, was doing all the right things always for those people. And that's ultimately the most important part.
So for someone that maybe we've been talking a little bit about actually getting into the business, but somebody that, is thinking about that, or someone that doesn't have a financial advisor and is considering getting one, what are like the nuts and bolts things, and not necessarily specific to what you do, but in the industry, what kind of products would you expect a financial advisor to, mutual funds, insurance, all those sorts of things?
Yeah, I think a well-rounded advisor probably has the questions you'd be wanting to asking is, are you a fiduciary? What credentials do you have? Everyone knows the certified financial planner route. I am a chartered financial consultant, which I have reasons to think I think is just as well-rounded, if not more. But you want to see what credentials they have to answer your question. When you have that background, you are covering all the points of, you're not just here's an investment, good luck. You're like, how does this fit holistically with your whole life? Is there insurance that's needed? How is your estate plan set up? Is that sufficient for what you have going on? And are we reviewing it often enough? Are we considering taxes? Now, we're not CPAs that we can't give tax advice, but I can definitely tell you what you can and can't do that will affect your taxes positively or negatively. So someone that can point on all aspects of the financial journey and fill in the holes and guide you back to the whole team. Here's this person that you need to talk to fill that hole. Oh, you are going to start a business and you have a baby on the way and you've got a partner in the business. It's okay. Here's 3 more professionals you should probably talk to pretty quickly to cover your bases, to be smart about it. So yeah, the services are vast, and I can include those other professionals because I think those are services that come along with this whole journey. But yeah, you cover your investment accounts, you cover your emergency. There's this whole pillar of financial wellness. But yeah, is your emergency savings intact? Are you covered insurance wise for what you need? Are your tax advantaged offerings being maximized before we go to the next level? If we go to the next level first, are we doing it for the right reasons? And all of the things. You're covering all of the bases.
So like I think there's an episode of Friends, and I'm sure in every show, right? But Monica's like into stock. She was buying, I think, like her symbol or something. I think it was her initials or something. And she's calling, I'm not sure if it was the Wall Street floor or a financial advisor or who it was, but she's buy. No, sell. Is that what people
No,
can do if they start working with you?
not me, but that's a stockbroker. That's your firehouse guy if you want that, man.
But what's the difference?
So
People may not know.
yeah, yeah, I don't sit again, back to how we come in different flavors, like, that guy that does the buy, sell, sell has the same credentials I do in terms of what he can and can't do. I do have clients. One today called me up and said, "Please buy this," but it's not me going to them saying, "Do it." But we run we have we use portfolio managers that make these adjustments on a daily basis inside of a portfolio. I don't sit behind my screen buying this and selling that for every single client that I have. I wouldn't sleep if that's what my time was consistent of doing. So we have portfolio managers that construct and manage portfolios, and then we manage the relationships with clients and make sure everyone's doing their job on the entire team. So I can help people choose which investments to make based on their goals and then make sure that it makes sense with their entire financial plan. Back to that software that we use, we make sure that those investments that we're choosing work for them. A stockbroker probably has their book of business and everybody owns the same thing. And when we're buying X and selling Y, everyone is buying X and everyone is selling Y. That's not how I operate. Everyone gets a more individualized plan.
So do you get yelled at a lot?
No,
They don't
no,
blame you when the stock
no.
drops?
Into my clients pretty well. People panic, but it's more of a Cheryl, please talk me off the ledge not to do this. And so we do that. But no, and I'm again back to the software. If we do this risk assessment and we run this, here's the bandwidth of where you're comfortable. And if the market's moving and it's inside this bandwidth, I can be like, Mr. Person or Mrs. Person, like you told me you could handle this, but if you can't, let's readjust. There's an expectation set in there with all of the work that we do. And then there are those one offs. Obviously, there's the COVID, there's the April of this year. Like those things are going to happen. But I don't get very few people actually even call anymore when that happens. I try to get to them before they get to me just to let them know I'm paying attention and thinking about them. But no, I don't. If someone did blame me, I'd be like, we're not a good fit and they wouldn't be with me anymore. So,
That's a great piece of advice for any business, in my opinion.
yes. Yeah, yeah. Also, if they think I'm in control of this thing, what? They are. Their feet are not planted in reality to begin with.
They need this podcast to understand
No,
how
absolutely.
the world of finance works.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else, what questions should we have been asking you that people should know about getting a financial advisor, or just what they should be thinking about in their financial journey?
I think people should really assess what their needs are and where they place value. I have never been someone who I really enjoy what I do. And I feel I make a really big difference in the people's lives that I have as clients. And that is because they value what I do. So if this podcast brings you any knowledge about what we do and why someone would use us, if you're like, okay, I have the time of day, I've got the desire to learn about this stuff, I've got some behavioral financial maturity to stick to a plan and the ability to make a plan, then maybe this is not a professional that you need in your life because this, again, it's not, you need to be diligent on top of it, pay attention and have this be a big part of your life if you're going to do it yourself. So to answer your question, I think you would want to look deep inside and say, do I value the types of things and the services that someone like this provides? Is that something I'm happy to offload and pay for so I don't have to do it myself? And it's almost like your taxes, like, I don't want to do my taxes. I know about taxes, a lot about them. I don't want to do them. And so I offload that so fast. And yes, we all know it's still a lot of work to get all your stuff together to get it somewhere. But so you learn about what that person can do for you and you say, do I want to do that myself? And historically, people who are do-it-yourselfers aren't as successful over time because they make these big emotional financial decisions. Now, if you do it yourself over time and you can just put money in your investment strategy and close Pandora's box for 20 years and stay disciplined, then so be it. But if your situation and your pillars and your net worth aren't really warranting a big plan or strategy, like maybe we're not that important of a professional in your life. So to answer your question, assess what's important to you and where you're at. And if the things that we do sound of value, then I would say seek out a referral from someone that you know and trust. And the other thing I'd say is this came to mind. I was thinking about this podcast yesterday, and I was reminded of a client who he was in the early stages of dementia, as was his wife. And they were seeing he's a lifetime do-it-yourselfer guy. And he had a significant amount of money and put it all out in front of me. I told him what we would do. He just really didn't want to give up control, but it probably was time. I looked at his stuff and it was a blended family. So this was a second marriage. Wife had children on one side, he had children on his own side. All of his money went to the wife should something happen to him. And I was like, huh. And all of her accounts, all of her money goes to her two children. So I was like, have you met with your estate planning attorney? They're like, yeah, they're in Seattle, all the things. And I said, your money goes to her. And then her money goes to her two kids. Do you want any of your money to go to your children? He's like, well, absolutely. I'm like, it doesn't happen. Unless you make something change, it doesn't happen. And he's, are you kidding? So what I'm trying to say there is huge amounts of money that would not go to his children if these things weren't brought up. It's not even, does the way I invest bring value to you? Is, are we thinking about everything that's important to you in the way you have things set up? Because that was a huge light bulb moment for this person. And these three children of this man will be changed in ways they would otherwise been suffering in. So that's the kind of thing that someone like us, I think we can bring eyes and ears to people who may not be even thinking about what could possibly go wrong. So
Yeah. So thinking about that entire big picture. And so, yes, you are helping people invest according to their risk tolerance, those sorts of things. But it's also looking at the whole financial picture and hopefully preventing gaps or misdirections or those sorts of things.
yeah, and guidance and planning beyond your lifetime. Are things going to go the way you want them? And we know life's not going to go the way you think it's going to go, number one. So should it not? Have we thought of all the things? And do we think about them often enough? And someone like me thinks about it for you. And I think of the things that you don't even know to ask. And people like me, there's a lot of great ones of us around, of course.
This has been awesome, Cheryl. I think
Thank
our
you, Cheryl.
listeners are going to find this very valuable. And you are a very calm voice in the financial world compared to my hyperactive one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Happy to spread the knowledge. And yeah, I like what I do. It's fun.
Thank you, Cheryl. And we're going to link to how you can reach out to Cheryl in our show notes and learn more. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And with that said, we'll see you next time on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for having me.